The massive Vrelka ship hung in Earth's orbit, like a jagged metal mountain. Sunlight glinted off its dark purple hull as smaller human vessels buzzed around it like curious bees. It had been 3 weeks since the aliens arrived, and after careful radio communications, today marked the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the Vrelka. Ambassador Eric Miller adjusted his tie for the 5th time as the diplomatic shuttle approached the designated docking bay. At 53, Eric had spent his career handling delicate negotiations with difficult foreign powers, but nothing had prepared him for representing all of humanity to an alien species. "The music box is secure, sir," said Samantha Green, his assistant. She patted the ornate wooden case on her lap. Inside was humanity's carefully chosen peace gift, a handcrafted music box made from Earth's finest materials. It had been designed by a committee of Earth's greatest artists and engineers over the course of 6 frantic months. "Good," Eric nodded, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. "Remember what we practiced. Present it with both hands, step back 4 paces, then bow slightly." Samantha nodded. At 32, she was younger than most on the diplomatic team. But her quick thinking and calm under pressure had earned her this. Historic roll. The shuttle shuddered as docking clamps engaged. Eric looked at the 5 other members of his team, 2 linguists, a xenobiologist, a cultural specialist, and a military liaison, all wearing identical expressions of nervous excitement. "We represent all of humanity today," Eric said, standing, "to address them. No matter what they look like or how they act, show nothing but respect and openness. We've come too far to mess this up now." The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss. A long corridor stretched before them, the walls estranged, shifting material that seemed both solid and liquid at once. 2 tall figures waited at the end. Eric took a deep breath and stepped forward, his team following in practiced formation. The Vrelka were taller than expected, nearly 7 feet in height. They had 4 arms and skin that resembled polished copper. Their faces featured 3 large eyes arranged in a triangle pattern above what appeared to be breathing slits rather than a nose or mouth. They wore flowing garments that moved like water, despite appearing metallic. "Greetings from Earth and all humanity," Eric said clearly, making the practiced open-hand gesture that their linguists had established during radio communications. "We come in peace and friendship." The translation device on his lapel converted his words into the musical tones of the Vrelka language. The aliens responded with sounds like wind chimes and flowing water, which Eric's earpiece translated as formal welcomes. The meeting proceeded smoothly through introductions. The Vrelka representatives, who introduced themselves with names that sounded like Song of Distant Stars and Pattern in Deep Water, seemed genuinely curious about humans. They asked polite questions about Earth's environment and human physiology, while Eric's team responded with prepared answers about human culture and history. After 30 minutes of this exchange, Eric nodded to Samantha. It was time for the gift presentation, the ceremonial highlight of this first contact. Samantha stepped forward with the wooden box cradled in her hands. The case itself was a work of art carved from ancient oak and inlaid with mother-of-pearl designs showing scenes of Earth's natural beauty. "We present this gift as a symbol of humanity's desire for peaceful relations," Samantha said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "This music box contains no electronic components, only mechanical craftsmanship, playing a melody composed specifically for this historic occasion." As she extended the box toward the Vrelka, several things happened. At once, lights throughout the room suddenly shifted from soft blue to harsh red. A high-pitched alarm began to sound. 4 spherical devices dropped from the ceiling, surrounding Samantha and the box in a containment field that glowed faintly blue. The Vrelka moved with startling speed. Additional aliens rushed into the room, these wearing what were clearly protective suits. They carried devices that looked uncomfortably like weapons, all pointed at the humans. "What's happening?" Eric shouted over the alarm. "We mean no harm. The box contains only a musical instrument." The translation came through his earpiece. "Remain still. Weapons system detected. Security protocols engaged. Weapons?" "No, you don't understand," Eric began, but was cut off as two of the suited. Vrelka approached Samantha and sprayed her, and the box with a thick white foam that hardened almost instantly. The human military liaison, Officer Ben Wright, tensed visibly, but had the good sense not to reach for the ceremonial sidearm he carried. One wrong move now could end humanity's first contact in disaster. The next 3 hours were a blur of confusion. The human delegation was separated, each member taken to a different room for questioning. The music box was removed by Vrelka wearing what appeared to be bomb disposal equipment. When they were finally brought back together in what seemed to be a conference room, Eric was pale with worry and anger. "They think we tried to assassinate them," he explained to his team. The music box's mechanical components, the springs, gears, and trigger mechanism apparently register on their scanners, exactly like their version of a proximity mine. "That's ridiculous," Samantha said, still shaking from her ordeal. "It's just a music box. How could they think we'd bring a bomb to a peace meeting?" The xenobiologist, Dr. Paul Evans, sighed heavily. "Because they might. Their history might be different from ours, or their technology developed along different lines. What seems obvious to us might be completely foreign to them." The door slid open, and a new Vrelka entered. This one wore elaborate decorations on its flowing garment that suggested higher rank. "I am Chief Diplomatic Coordinator," the translation came through. "We have examined your device and verified it is not an explosive mechanism as initially believed. We ... The alien made a sound like water droplets falling on crystal. "We offer regret for the misunderstanding." Eric stood, summoning his diplomatic training. "We understand the caution. No offense is taken where none was intended." The Vrelka's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Your device has been returned to its inert state and will be presented to our leadership as intended. However, new protocols must be established for future exchanges." Over the next day, relations slowly normalized. The music box was eventually played for the Vrelka leadership, though only after being completely disassembled and rebuilt by their technicians. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, Eric received a diplomatic message from the Vrelka High Council. It contained their formal response to the human peace offering and outlined procedures for future meetings. The last item on the list made Eric both laugh and sigh. All future human delegations will be subject to enhanced scanning protocols. All gifts and offerings must be pre-approved and examined by Vrelka security personnel. Standard bomb detection equipment will be present at all human diplomatic functions. "Well," Eric said to Samantha as their shuttle pulled away from the alien ship, "at least we didn't start an interstellar war. Though I have a feeling humans are going to have an interesting reputation in the galaxy." He gazed out the window at the stars. First contact had been made, but clearly humanity had a lot to learn about how the universe perceived them. They weren't seen as the peaceful species they believed themselves to be. They were seen as dangerous. And perhaps, Eric thought, with a new perspective, from a certain point of view, they were. 5 years had passed since the music box incident with the Vrelka. Humanity had learned much about galactic diplomacy in that time, though often through embarrassing mistakes. The United Earth Council now included an entire department dedicated to studying how human gifts might be perceived by different alien species. Kate Rogers stood in her laboratory, carefully examining the rose plant under special lighting. At 38, she was Earth's leading botanist, and she had spent the last 2 years developing this specific hybrid rose for a very important mission. Beautiful, she whispered, as the rose changed from deep blue to purple when she played. A soft note on her flute. The plant responded to sound vibrations by changing color, a living symbol of humanity's adaptability and artistic soul. "Dr. Rogers," called a voice from the doorway. "Ambassador Hayes has arrived for the final inspection." Kate looked up to see William Hayes entering her lab. At 65, he was one of Earth's most experienced diplomats and had been chosen to lead the upcoming mission to the Centauri space station. "Ambassador Hayes," Kate greeted him warmly. "The sonic rose is ready. I believe this will make a much better impression than our previous gifts." William approached the plant with caution. The music box disaster was still fresh in diplomatic memory, and his career had nearly ended after a poorly received gift of Earth paintings to another alien race called the Dorn. Apparently, the landscapes had contained colors that were considered highly offensive in Dorn culture. "You're certain it contains no defense mechanisms?" William asked, studying the plant without touching it. Kate smiled. "It's completely harmless. The thorns have been genetically removed, and it contains no toxic compounds whatsoever. The color-changing ability is purely aesthetic, a response to sound waves that alters pigment cells in the petals." William nodded slowly. "And the containment system?" Kate gestured to an elegant glass terrarium nearby. "Self-contained ecosystem. It recycles water, generates the perfect amount of light, and monitors the plant's health. The Centauri won't need to do anything to maintain it." 2 weeks later, William led a team of 7 diplomats aboard the human vessel, Northern Star, as it approached the Centauri space station. The station was unlike anything humans had built, a massive crystalline structure that seemed to grow rather than be constructed, with geometric patterns that hurt the eyes if viewed too long. "Remember," William briefed his team one final time, "the Centauri are a crystalline species with collective intelligence. They communicate through light patterns and electromagnetic fields. Our translators will handle the language barrier, but be mindful of your movements. No sudden gestures." The botanical gift sat in its special container in the center of the briefing room. The rose was at its most vibrant, shifting between rich colors as it responded to the voices in the room. "This living gift represents our hope for growing relations between our species." William practiced his presentation speech. "A symbol of beauty that responds to its environment, just as we hope our cultures will harmoniously respond to each other." The human ship docked with the Centauri station, the connection points adjusting to accommodate human technology. William took a deep breath as the airlock cycled and the doors opened to reveal their hosts. The Centauri were even more alien than the briefings had suggested. They resembled complex geometric structures made of translucent crystal, pulsing with internal light. 3 of them waited at the docking area, hovering slightly above the floor without any visible means of propulsion. William stepped forward and made the greeting gesture they had been taught, arms spread wide, palms up, before bringing his hands together in front of his chest. "Greetings from Earth and humanity," he said clearly. "We come seeking friendship and knowledge." The translator device converted his words into patterns of light that flashed across the surface of the Centauri. They responded with their own light patterns, which the humans' devices translated as formal welcomes. The meeting proceeded smoothly at first. The Centauri seemed curious about humans, asking questions about organic life and emotional experiences that their crystalline nature did not share. William's team answered carefully, following the diplomatic guidelines established over years of first contact situations. Finally, the moment came for the gift presentation. 2 members of William's team carefully brought forward the terrarium containing the sonic rose. "We present this living gift," William said, "a specially developed plant from Earth that responds to sound by changing its colors. It represents our hope for growing relations between our species." As the terrarium was placed on a pedestal before the Zentari, the alien beings suddenly pulled back. Their internal lights began pulsing rapidly in patterns that the translators struggled to keep up with. "Containment field," came the translated message as alarms began to sound throughout the docking area. "Biological defense system detected." "What?" "No," William protested as Zentari security units, larger, more angular crystal formations, entered the area. "It's just a flower. It has no defenses." The rose terrarium was quickly enclosed in a shimmering energy field. The Zentari lights pulsed in what seemed like agitated patterns. "Scan shows microscopic thorns at cellular level," the translation came through. "Chemical compounds match known toxic profiles. Rapid cellular adaptation capability suggests potential invasive organism." William turned to Dr. Olivia Chun, the xenobiologist on his team. "What are they talking about?" Kate said all thorns were removed. Dr. Chun's face paled as she read data from her tablet. "At the macroscopic level, yes, but the plant retained microscopic barbs at the cellular level. It's part of the rose's DNA, and the compounds that allow it to change color must be registering as toxins to their scanning technology." The next 6 hours were spent in tense negotiations. The human delegation was not detained as the Vrelka had done years earlier, but the gift was immediately quarantined in a secure laboratory on the station. Eventually, a Zentari representative, with more diplomatic experience, arrived to smooth over the situation. "We understand no harm was intended," the translated message stated. "However, your biological organisms contain defense mechanisms that could pose risks to non-carbon life. Forms like ourselves. Your flower contains cellular structures that could potentially damage our crystalline matrices." William sighed deeply. "We sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding. The plant was intended as a symbol of beauty and harmony." "Beauty often conceals danger," the Zentari responded. "This is perhaps a valuable first lesson between our species." The diplomatic meeting continued, though with a more cautious tone. By the end, relations were established, though not as warmly as hoped as William and his team prepared to depart. They received the official Zentari diplomatic protocols for future meetings. One item stood out clearly: all biological samples from Earth must undergo a 6-month quarantine and genetic modification process before being accepted into Zentari environments. All human delegates will be scanned for unintentional biological contaminants. On the journey home, William stared. Out at the stars, a wry smile on his face. "We meant to show them beauty," he said to his team, but all they saw were thorns and toxins. "To be fair," Dr. Chon replied, "from their perspective, that's exactly what it was. Perhaps we need to stop thinking about what would make a good gift from a human perspective." William nodded slowly. "The galaxy is teaching us an important lesson about ourselves. What we see as harmless, others see as threatening. And perhaps they're not entirely wrong." As Earth came into view, William wondered what the next diplomatic mission would attempt. Surely the third time would be the charm. Director Nancy Clark paced the length of her office at the United Earth Diplomatic Corps' headquarters. At 57, she had overseen 2 major diplomatic incidents already: the Vrelka music box disaster and the Zentari plant fiasco. Salt and pepper hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and the lines around her eyes had deepened over the past year of planning. "Third time's the charm," she muttered to herself, stopping to look at the small crystal cube sitting on her desk. It sparkled under the office lights, seemingly simple and harmless. The door slid open, and Ambassador John Parker entered. At 45, he was younger than most senior diplomats, but his expertise in technology and communication had made him the perfect choice to lead the upcoming mission to the Mrax Confederacy. "The data crystal is ready for final inspection." "Director," John said, his voice steady despite the pressure they both felt. Earth's reputation in galactic diplomatic circles was becoming problematic. Some species had begun referring to humans as the well-meaning threats. Nancy gestured too. The crystal. Tell me again why this will work when our previous gifts failed. John picked up the crystal, turning it in the light. No moving parts like the music box that frightened the Vrelka. No biological components like the plant that alarmed the Centauri. Just pure data human culture, art, scientific achievements, all carefully selected to remove anything that could be misinterpreted as threatening. And the casing? Nancy asked, pointing to the transparent container beside the crystal. Simple transparent material, so they can see there are no hidden components, John explained. The technical team assures me it's completely inert. 4 weeks later, John led his diplomatic team of 6 specialists aboard the Earth vessel Harmony as it approached the massive space station of the Mrax Confederacy. The station was an impressive feat of engineering a spinning wheel, nearly 5 miles across, with various ships from dozens of species docked along its outer ring. The Mrax were one of the older species in the galactic community, with a technology level slightly more advanced than humanity's. Their physical appearance, 6-limbed beings with exoskeletons and compound eyes, reminded humans of Earth insects, though they were warm-blooded and much larger, standing about 5 feet tall. John had studied their protocols extensively. They, Mrax valued knowledge and technological innovation above all else. The data crystal seemed the perfect gift, a sharing of human knowledge with no strings attached. Remember, John briefed his team one final time. The Mrax communicate primarily through a combination of sounds and limb positions. Our translators will handle the language, but be mindful of your posture. Standing straight with arms at your sides is considered the most respectful stance. The crystal sat in its clear case on the table between them. It contained terabytes of carefully curated information, Earth's greatest music, art reproductions, scientific papers, historical records, and cultural highlights. We offer knowledge freely shared. John practiced his presentation speech. Our history, our art, our science, the best of who we are. The Harmony docked smoothly with the Mrax station. John took a deep breath as his team lined up behind him at the airlock. The doors slid open to reveal 3 Mrax waiting on the other side, their chitinous exoskeletons a beautiful iridescent blue. Greetings from Earth and humanity, John said, keeping his body in the formal posture they had practiced. We come, seeking friendship through shared knowledge. The translator converted his words into the clicking and whistling sounds of the Mrax language. The lead Mrax responded with sounds that the humans' devices translated as formal welcomes. The initial meeting went well. The Mrax seemed genuinely interested in humans, asking detailed questions about Earth technology and social structures. John's team answered carefully, following the new, more rigorous diplomatic guidelines. Finally, the moment came for the gift presentation. John personally carried the clear case containing the data crystal to the center of the meeting room. We offer this data crystal as a symbol of friendship, John said, placing the case on a designated pedestal. It contains selected knowledge from Earth Hour art, music, literature, and scientific discoveries. The crystal also contains an auto-updating translation program to convert all content into your language. As he stepped back, John noticed the Mrax's compound eyes focusing intently on the crystal. Their limbs began moving in patterns that seemed agitated. One of them produced a scanning device and aimed it at the gift. The scanner emitted a series of beeps, and suddenly the Mrax security team entered the room. Their exoskeletons were darker, almost black, and they carried what looked like weapons. Security alert, came the translated message. Potential cybernetic intrusion device detected. What? No, John protested, feeling a sinking sense of deja vu. It's just a data storage device with cultural information. The crystal and its case were quickly enclosed in some kind of containment field. The Mrax security team's limbs moved in what the human translator identified as warning postures. Scan shows quantum encryption signatures consistent with intrusion software. The translation came through. Auto-executing programs detected. Potential intelligence gathering capability identified. John turned to Dr. Leo Wilson, the technology specialist on his team. What are they talking about? You said the crystal was just simple data storage. Dr. Wilson looked confused as he consulted his tablet. The quantum encryption is just standard Earth security protocol to prevent data corruption. And the auto-updating program is just the translation software to make the content accessible to them. To them, it looks like hacking tools, John realized with growing horror. The next 4 days were spent in increasingly tense technical discussions. The human delegation was restricted to guest quarters while Mrax specialists completely disassembled the crystal structure. Eventually, the Mrax chief technology officer came to meet with John. The alien's exoskeleton had hints of green mixed with the blue, which their briefings had said indicated a more senior status. We have completed analysis of your data storage device, the translated message stated. While we detect no malicious intent, your encryption and auto-executing programs match profiles of known cyber infiltration tools used by other species. John sighed deeply. The encryption was only meant to protect the data from corruption. The auto-executing programs were only meant to translate the content for your convenience. One species' protection is another's invasion, the Mrax responded. This is perhaps an important lesson in galactic relations. By the end of the week, the Mrax had agreed to accept the gift, but only after completely rebuilding it using their own technology and stripping it of all its interactive features. The data itself was deemed valuable, but the delivery method had created yet another diplomatic incident. As John and his team prepared to depart, they received the official Mrax diplomatic protocols for future meetings. One item was highlighted. All data storage devices must be submitted in advance and rebuilt using Mrax-approved technology. All software must be reviewed by Mrax security specialists before installation. On the journey home, John stared at the stars through the viewport, shaking his head. We meant to share knowledge, he said to his team, but all they saw was a potential cyber attack. 3 for 3, Dr. Wilson commented. First, mechanical devices register as bombs, then plants register as biological weapons, and now data storage registers as hacking tools. The galaxy is teaching us something important about perception, John replied. Everything we create contains the seeds of both innovation and threat. Perhaps we need to embrace that duality rather than fight it. As Earth came into view, John wondered what the diplomatic corps would try next. Surely they couldn't mess up a fourth time, could they? Commander Alan Foster stood before the United Earth Council, his military posture perfect, despite his growing discomfort. At 48, he had a distinguished career in both military and diplomatic service. Now he faced his greatest challenge salvaging humanity's reputation in the galactic community. With all due respect, Alan said to the 12 council members seated at the curved table before him, "We're overthinking this. Our previous gifts have failed because they were too complex." The council chamber was silent as the members considered. His words. 3 failed diplomatic missions had cost Earth valuable trade opportunities and cultural exchanges. Some alien species now refuse to meet with human delegations entirely. "What do you propose, Commander Foster?" asked Counselor Grace Howard, her tone skeptical. The music box, plant, and data crystal disasters had all occurred under her oversight. Of Interstellar Relations. Allen held up a small wooden box. Chocolate. Simple, organic, artisanal chocolates made with all natural ingredients from Earth. Food sharing is a universal concept. There's no way this can be misinterpreted. 2 weeks later, Alan led a small team of 4 diplomats aboard the Earth vessel Peaceful Venture as it approached the massive ring-shaped habitat of the Dravaks hierarchy. The Dravaks were one of the most influential species in the local cluster, with trading relationships spanning dozens of star systems. Alan had studied everything available about the Dravaks. They were mammalian-like humans, though with 4 arms, and a thick coat of fur that ranged from silver to dark blue. Their society valued trade and practical relationships above all else. Remember, Alan briefed his team one final time, the Dravaks communicate directly and value efficiency. They dislike flowery language or excessive ceremony. Keep your statements clear and your meanings plain. The wooden box of chocolates sat on the table between them. Each piece was handcrafted by Earth's finest chocolatiers, using only organic ingredients: cocoa, sugar, vanilla, and nuts. The simplicity was the point. No mechanical parts like the music box, no living material like the plant, no electronic components like the data crystal. We offer food from our world as a gesture of friendship. Alan practiced his presentation speech. Sharing sustenance is a universal sign of trust. The Peaceful Venture docked smoothly with the Dravaks habitat. Alan took a deep breath as his team lined up behind him at the airlock. The doors slid open to reveal 2 Dravaks waiting on the other side, their silver fur gleaming under the habitat lights. "Greetings from Earth and humanity," Alan said, keeping his statements direct as advised. "We come seeking mutually beneficial relations." The translator converted his words into the deep rumbling sounds of the Dravaks language. The lead Dravaks responded with sounds that the humans' devices translated as businesslike welcomes. The initial meeting proceeded efficiently. Dravaks asked practical questions about Earth resources, manufacturing capabilities, and trade needs. Alan's team answered directly, following the diplomatic briefing they had received. Finally, the moment came for the gift presentation. Alan personally carried the wooden box of chocolates to the center of the meeting room. "We offer these food items from Earth as a symbol of friendship," Alan said, placing the box on the table between them. "They are called chocolates a treat, made from plant seeds that humans enjoy. Sharing food is how we build trust." As he opened the box to reveal the assortment of chocolates inside, Alan noticed the Dravaks leaning forward slightly, their nose-like sensory organs twitching. For a moment, he felt hopeful their interest seemed genuine. Then one of the Dravaks produced a small device and waved it over the open box. The device emitted a series of tones, and suddenly the Dravak security team entered the room, their dark blue fur standing out against the silver of the diplomatic team. "Containment alert," came the translated message. "Potential chemical agents detected." "What? No!" Alan protested, the familiar feeling of diplomatic failure washing over him. "They're just Candy's food. They're completely safe." The box of chocolates was quickly sealed in a containment field. The Dravak security team moved with practiced efficiency, their 4 arms operating various scanning devices around the gift. Scan shows 37 chemical compounds that would alter Dravaks. Neural chemistry. The translation came through. Theobromine, phenylethylamine, tryptophan, and various alkaloids detected. Potential mood-altering substances identified. Alan turned to Dr. Mia Peterson, the xenobiologist on his team. "What are they talking about? These are just regular chocolates." Dr. Peterson's eyes widened in realization. "The compounds in chocolate that give humans pleasure, they must affect Dravak's brain chemistry differently. What gives us a slight endorphin release might cause them to hallucinate, or worse." "So our comfort food is their psychedelic drug?" Alan asked, horrified. "Or poison," Dr. Peterson added grimly. The chocolates were promptly incinerated in a specialized chamber. The human delegation watched in dismay as their carefully selected gift was reduced to ash dot the next day. A senior Dravax trade representative met with Alan. The alien's fur was a mix of silver and blue, indicating high rank within their hierarchy. "We have completed analysis of your food items," the translated message stated. "While we detect no hostile intent, these substances would have caused severe neurological reactions in our species, including hallucinations and temporary paralysis." Alan sighed deeply. The substances in chocolate only cause mild pleasure in humans. We had no idea they would affect your biology so differently. "One species' pleasure is another's poison," the Dravax responded practically. This highlights the importance of thorough biological compatibility studies before any exchange of organic materials. The diplomatic meeting continued, though with a more cautious approach. By the end, basic trade agreements were established. Though far more limited than Earth had hoped for Dot, as Alan and his team prepared to depart, they received the official Dravax trading protocols for future meetings. One item was prominently featured: no biological or chemical exchange permitted, without prior laboratory analysis. All food items strictly prohibited. Human delegates must undergo decontamination procedures before boarding Dravax habitats. On the journey home, Alan stared at the stars through the viewport, a bitter laugh escaping him. "We tried to share one of our simplest pleasures," he said to his team, "and it turns out we're basically walking chemistry sets of potential toxins to them." 444, Dr. Peterson remarked. "Mechanical devices look like bombs. Plants look like biological weapons. Data storage looks like hacking tools. And now even our food looks like chemical warfare. The galaxy is giving us a very clear message about ourselves," Alan replied thoughtfully. "Everything we create, or even are, has the potential to harm others, not through malice, but through difference." As Earth came into view, Alan wondered if humans would ever find a way to be seen as something other than an unintentional threat. The pattern was becoming embarrassingly clear. Pulling a human had become galactic slang for accidentally threatening someone while trying to be nice. Human diplomatic protocols now included pages of restrictions and warnings, and Earth's ambassadors were becoming known for their apologetic postures. Something would have to change in their approach. The question was, what could humans possibly offer that wouldn't be seen as a potential weapon? Ambassador Lisa Wright stood before the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber, trying to calm her racing heart. At 50, she had spent the last decade dealing with the aftermath of humanity's diplomatic missteps. The music box bomb scare, the plant biological hazard, the data crystal cyber threat, and the chocolate poisoning incident had all become legendary examples of how not to conduct alien relations. Today, Earth would try one last time to change its reputation. After years of careful study and consultation with friendly alien species, Lisa believed they had finally found a solution. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" asked Daniel Brown, her chief advisor. At 42, he had helped develop the new approach they would present today. Lisa nodded, smoothing down her formal diplomatic uniform. "As ready as I'll ever be. If this doesn't work, Earth might as well give up on galactic diplomacy entirely." The massive doors slid open silently, revealing the Galactic Council chamber. The circular room contained representatives from 27 different species, each seated at stations designed for their unique physiologies. The chamber hummed with the soft sounds of multiple translation devices working simultaneously. Lisa walked forward with measured steps, her small team following behind her. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders. This wasn't just another diplomatic mission. This was humanity's last chance to be taken seriously in galactic affairs. "Representatives of the Galactic Council," Lisa began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I come before you not with gifts, but with understanding." The translator devices around the room converted her words into dozens of different languages and communication methods, from the musical tones of the Vrelka to the light patterns of the Centauri, from the clicking sounds of the Mrax to the deep rumbles of the Dravax. For too long, humanity has approached galactic relations from our own limited perspective, Lisa continued. We now recognize that what seems harmless to us may appear threatening to others, not through malice, but through difference. She paused, making eye contact with as many of the alien representatives as she could. Some species didn't have eyes as humans understood them, but she faced their sensory organs respectfully. We don't ask you to trust us blindly, Lisa said. Instead, we ask you to help us learn how to be better neighbors. Lisa gestured, and Daniel stepped forward with a small datapad. He transmitted information to the Central Council System. We propose a new diplomatic protocol, Lisa explained, as information appeared on screens around the chamber. The Human Safety Liaison, a team of xenobiologists, cultural specialists, and security experts from various species, who would evaluate all human offerings before formal presentation. The council chamber filled with the sounds of discussion, as representatives communicated with each other and their home governments. Lisa waited patiently, knowing this moment would determine Earth's future in the galactic community. Finally, the Centauri representative's crystalline form pulsed with light patterns that the translator converted to words. Your previous ... incidents have caused considerable concern among council members, came the translated message. Why should we believe this approach will be different? Lisa nodded in acknowledgement. Because we are no longer trying to prove we are harmless. We accept that, from your perspectives, we may never be completely harmless. Our biology, our technology, even our art contains elements that can be perceived as threats. A ripple of light agreement patterns moved through several council members. Instead, Lisa continued, we ask for your help in learning which aspects of ourselves we need to modify or explain before sharing. We wish to contribute to galactic culture and commerce, but we recognize we cannot do this safely without your guidance. The Vrelka representative's copper skin shimmered as they communicated. This is ... unusual. Most species attempt to prove their worthiness by demonstrating their harmlessness. Humans have tried that approach 4 times, Lisa said with a small smile. The results speak for themselves. A sound like wind chimes filled the chamber. The translator identified it as laughter from several species. The council deliberated for hours. Lisa and her team waited in a side chamber, reviewing contingency plans and discussing possible outcomes. Finally, they were called back before the council. The Mrax representative, their blue exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights, delivered the council's response. The Galactic Council accepts Earth's proposal for the Human Safety Liaison protocol, in the translated message. Furthermore, as a gesture of our commitment to this new approach, we invite Earth to make a presentation of human culture evaluated and presented under the new protocol. Lisa felt relief wash over her. Thank you. We have prepared something with the help of consultants from several council species. She nodded to Daniel, who activated a small device. In the center of the council chamber, a holographic projection, appeared a simple display of Earth's night sky, showing the stars as seen from humanity's home planet. This contains no mechanical parts, Lisa explained. No biological material, no encrypted data, no chemical compounds. Just light arranged in patterns that tell the story of our home. As the stars slowly rotated, mapping Earth's view of the galaxy through the seasons, members of the council watched without fear for the first time. The display was beautiful in its simplicity and completely harmless to all present. The Vrelka representative moved closer to Lisa and spoke quietly. The translation came through her personal device. It is not that we feared you were violent, the alien said. It is that you are built to survive on a world that would kill most of us. You carry that strength in everything you create. Lisa nodded. In understanding, we're beginning to see that now. Over the following years, the human safety liaison became a standard part of all diplomatic protocols. Gift exchanges with humans were still conducted with enhanced security measures, but now they were accompanied by good-natured humor rather than terror. Pulling a human evolved from an insult to a fond term for well-intentioned mistakes. Human. Diplomatic teams became known for their careful preparation and willingness to learn from others. And if bomb detectors were still standard procedure when dealing with humans, well, that was just common sense. On the 10th anniversary of the Human Safety Liaison Protocol, Lisa stood before a new generation of Earth diplomats at the Training Academy in Geneva. The most important lesson we've learned, she told the eager students, is that safety is in the eye of the beholder. What seems harmless to us may seem deadly to others, and neither perspective is wrong. She smiled as she looked at the diverse group before her, including several non-human observers from allied species. Our greatest strength wasn't proving we were harmless, Lisa concluded. It was acknowledging that we never will be, and finding a way to be careful neighbors anyway. As Lisa finished her lecture, her communication device chimed with a message from the Galactic Council. Another human diplomatic team had accidentally caused a panic by bringing paper documents to a meeting with a species that perceived cellulose as a biological weapon. She smiled and shook her head. Some things never changed, but at least now everyone was laughing about it.